Good morning, children. Today I am going to explain to you the remaining part of the story, Three Questions by Leo Tolstoy. But before explaining the concluding part, I would like to summarize the portion which has already been explained to you. The story, Three Questions, rotates mainly around three characters: a king, a learned and wise hermit, and a wounded stranger who plays a very important role in the story. The king, the pivotal character of the story, was in search of the answers to his three questions, which he felt, if answered correctly, would help him to be a successful ruler. The three questions were: what was the right time for every action? Who were the right people to listen to? And above all, what was the most important thing to do? A reward was also announced for the satisfactory answers. But all the wise men and the king's counselors failed to satisfy him. The king then thought to seek consultation of a wise hermit who lived in the jungle. The hermit only met ordinary people, so the king, dressed up like a normal man, leaving behind his horse and bodyguards, went to the hermit's hut. The king told the hermit that he had come in search of his answers, but the hermit did not respond and was busy digging the earth. The king waited for some time and then offered his help. With the passing of several hours, the king grew impatient and questioned the hermit whether he would divulge the answers to him or not. It was then that a wounded man came running towards them. The man had a severe wound in his stomach, and blood came gushing out of it. The king specially nursed the wounded man and carried him inside the hermit's hut. Children, it is still here that we have studied in our previous classes. And now I shall explain the remaining portion of the story. It is now that we come to the climax of the story, where the king gets the answers to his questions. The next morning, when the king opened his eyes, he was surprised hearing the confession made by the wounded stranger, who was also seeking for his forgiveness. The man told the king that he had come to seek revenge because the king had executed his brother and taken all his property. He wanted to kill the king on his return from the hermit's hut, but he unfortunately came upon the king's bodyguards, who recognized him and wounded him. He would have died if the king would have not cared and nursed him properly. He regretted his thoughts of killing the king and promised to be his faithful servant hereafter. This pleased the king, and he forgave him at once and immediately returned all his property. The pleased king then, for the last time, went to the hermit to quench his thirst for his answers, and found him busily sowing seeds in the beds the king dug the day before. On pleading for answers, the hermit surprised the king, saying that his questions had already been answered. The hermit said that if the king wouldn't have shown mercy and helped the hermit to dig the beds, by now he would have been a dead man in the hands of the stranger, who was anxiously awaiting his return. Thus, the most important man was the hermit, whom the king showed mercy, and the most important time was the king's digging the beds, and the most important deed was to help the hermit. Afterwards, when the wounded man came running to them, the most important time for the king was when he was nursing him. The most important person then was the wounded man, and the most important deed was to revive him from certain death. Thus, Saying so, the hermit concluded that the most important time is now, because this is the only time we have control over ourselves. The most important person is whoever we come across at that particular time, because no one knows whether he will get a chance to meet again. And the most important deed is to do good to whomever we come across, because that is the purpose of a man's life. Thus, the story comes to an end, children. I hope you liked the story. Enjoy yourself and stay safe. Thank you.